Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly Purple Penny coin news video. My name's Mark, I own and run the Purple Penny along with my wife Catherine. The Purple Penny is a small coin and banknote dealer in the northern suburbs of Adelaide, a place called Mawson Lakes. We also deal in some collectibles as well, militaria, badges, that sort of stuff. If you're wondering how we do business here, basically we have two main streams of income. We are a reseller for the Royal Australian Mint. So the Royal Australian Mint is Australia's governing mint. They produce the circulating coins for Australia to keep the wheels of commerce turning. They also produce collectible coins. I'm going to say a couple a month, but it has been a lot more than that recently. So we are an authorised distributor for the Royal Australian Mint, so we get a small allocation of new releases and mostly make that available to people that come into the shop or the regulars that have supported us continuously over the last 5 years that we've been operating. And the other way that we get stuff to sell is that we buy it. So we buy many collections a week over the counter here. It is the main way that we get our inventory is buying collections over the counter. So we get people coming from all over Adelaide, bringing us in stuff ranging from 2 handfuls of leftover coins that Nana brought back from holidays in the 1970s, right through to huge ancient coin collections. So I will just say though that most of the stuff is the 2 handfuls of coin that Nana brought back from holidays in the 1970s. That's what we spend most of our time looking through over the counter here. Right, generally what I do with these videos is talk about the news. So the first thing I'll do is just give the Adelaide Coin Expo a bit of a plug. It is happening again this year. The Adelaide Coin Expo is Adelaide's only real coin show. It's on the first weekend in October 5th and 6th, which I believe is a long weekend. It's on Saturday and Sunday from 10 till 5 on Saturday and 10 till 4 on Sunday. I did talk about this last week, and the sharp-eyed amongst you there would notice that the free admission has dropped off of the slide because there's a bit of conjecture in the NSSA, who are the supporting organisation for the Expo, about whether there will be free admission or not. The hall hire costs have gone up considerably, so maybe there will be a optional or compulsory gold coin donation to get in. They're still sorting that out amongst themselves, but as soon as we know what they're doing, we will let you know. The primary point of interest for a lot of collectors about the Expo, which makes me sad because we should be the primary point of interest about the Expo, is of course that the Royal Australian Mint is there. They are coming this year. They have confirmed that they're coming, and they have confirmed that they are doing a coin swap. And if you're wondering what a coin swap is, then please wait until later, because today is our regular question and answer session, and I have been asked exactly 0 questions. So I've had to pre-prepare a couple of questions that I always get asked, and one of those is, what is a Royal Australian Mint coin swap? So I'll be running through what that involves after we've gone through the news. Right. This week, a couple of weeks ago in England, we had the Bank of England charity banknote auction. The Bank of England is the issuing authority for banknotes in the UK. So they are responsible for printing all of the banknotes for England. I believe that the Royal Scottish Bank prints their own notes, and I'm not sure about Northern Ireland. I'm pretty sure Wales doesn't print their own banknotes. Anyway, the Bank of England holds charity auctions semi-regularly. This year they're holding a series of charity auctions, auctioning off the first of the Charles III banknotes, which were just released into circulation 2 weeks ago in the UK. So these charity auctions are conducted by Spink and Sons, a well-known auctioneer, and the proceeds of the auctions are donated to 2 or 3 important charities in the UK. Because the Charles III notes have just been released, they're actually having a set of let me just do this some of my heads, 4 banknote auctions, one for £5 notes, one for 10s, one for 20s and one for 50s. And the £5 one is the only one that has results available at the moment, but I believe the £20 and £50 are still coming up. So they actually auctioned some of the initial serial numbers for the £5 notes. So the first prefix for the new Charles III £5 notes is CA01, and they actually issued, they auctioned CA01 number 3, CA01 number 5, and CA01 number 7. And they auctioned for £11,000, £7,000 and £4,800 respectively. So that's a fairly good amount of money that was raised for charity. I believe across the 152 lots that they raised about £150,000 for charity. So someone went hard on those initial notes. And kudos, I guess, to the Bank of England for having those charity auctions. Now, of course, Note Printing Australia used to do that. They used to donate a sheet of notes for charity. I'm not sure if they do it anymore, but Mick Ronald, sort of Australia's best-known banknote expert, was talking about them at the NSSA meeting the other night, about the charity auction that the Reserve Bank has for newly issued notes. If you're interested in British polymers, as I said, the £20 and £50 auction is still coming up. Jump onto the Spink & Sons website in the UK and you can take part in that. So let's just say a few hellos here to everyone who's joining in. Hello Nathan, Antonius, Charles, Ted, Mike, Daryl, Ray, John, Petra, Peter, Kim, Richie, Catherine, if you don't know, Catherine Harris, who's commented there, is my wife, and she is the co-owner and co-manager of the Purple Penny. She's outside catching up on the weekend's mailing because we always have lots of orders over the weekend. Hello Trevor, and Nathan says there, beautiful notes, have my hands on a King Charles III £5 and £10. It's a shame he won't be appearing on our $5 note. Hello Jason, hello Bevan, and hello Jay. So thank you everyone for joining in. Right, next item on the news is, this is an interesting one. I don't know if any of you out there know about challenge coins, but challenge coins were wrong slide there. Challenge coins were initially at least a bit of a US military thing, where units would create their own medals, or they call them coins, but they're just medals or medallions, and hand them out on deployments, or perhaps when a particular unit had performed very well. Perhaps they were given as souvenirs to other units that they were deployed with. Anyway, I believe the origin of the challenge coins was that you had to have one on your person, and if you were in a bar and other members of the unit challenged you to show the coin, then you had to buy everyone in the bar a drink if you didn't have the coin. Now that might be apocryphal, but that's what I had heard. But generally these days challenge coins are everywhere, and they're produced by all sorts of government organisations and quasi-military organisations, and you see them from police and fire and rescue and border patrol and every unit that you can possibly imagine in militaries around the world. I believe that high-ranking officers have them made and hand them out when they're doing inspections and things like that. There's just an interesting thing in the news this week which contrasted the current mass-produced challenge coins, because they are just mass-produced. You can jump onto various websites, primarily in China, and design these challenge coins online and have them mailed to you at fairly low cost. There was a cute story on the defence.gov.au website this week about the Royal Australian Navy Fleet Support Unit, who were deployed to Guam at the US naval base in Guam. And apparently a lot of the US military there would greet the sailors from the support unit and hand them one of these challenge coins, which were created by the US units, and they didn't have anything to give back. So they actually had some of their technicians go to the workshop on the ship that was deployed to Guam and they created challenge coins of their own design from materials on the ship itself and made those by hand. So these are, I guess, much more interesting than the mass-produced items, and they're available to US military units in Guam as a souvenir, or people who have worked with the Royal Australian Navy Fleet Support Unit. So it's an interesting little story there. Probably going to be extremely hard to get your hands on those, as opposed to many other challenge coins which are floating around everywhere. Now, if you've watched these videos before, you know that I do like my metal detecting finds, and there was a good one in the news this week. A gentleman in Derbyshire had found a few years ago 8 hammered British coins, and you can see those at the top left there, and they're called hammered because they're basically made with a hammer. If you get an opportunity to research hammered coins, the way they are made is with a die that is on a spike, and it's hammered into a large block of wood, and someone, I hope with tongs and not their fingers, holds a blank onto the die which is hammered into the block of wood, and then they hold another die on top of that blank, and then someone smacks it with a hammer. So they are hammered. So the 8 coins this gentleman found were pennies, half groats and groats, which date back to the 1300s. So quite a nice little find. But a few months after he found those silver coins, he happened to find a 3,000-year-old solid gold cloak clasp. So you can see the picture on the right there. He's holding that clasp in his hand. It's a U-shaped object with round discs on the end of each arm of the U, and they believe it was probably used to hold a cloak together around the neck, or perhaps to hold a dress together. It's only the 7th one found in the UK, and that includes Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales and England. They believe it was probably made in Northern Ireland, and like I said, 3,000 years ago, so this is the Iron Age. And it weighs about 110 grams, and it's made of essentially pure gold. At the moment, it's sitting in the British Museum, and they're waiting for a coroner to declare whether the cloak clasp is going to be declared treasure, and if it's declared treasure, then it will be sold, and the metal detectorist and the landowner will split the proceeds of these things. So what's it worth? I couldn't find any information about that, but a life-changing amount of money was the suggestion in one British Museum article that I found. A life-changing amount of money. Mike says they must have been very forgetful or clumsy back then. They seem to have mislaid a lot of coins. So that's an interesting proposition there, Mike. I bought a couple of really interesting books when we were in the UK last month, and one of those includes an analysis of the numbers of Roman coins that have been found in the UK, and a rough estimate of what the total number of circulating coins must have been. And they really didn't lose that many. I think as a percentage of probably what was circulating. Certainly there were hoards put aside that people never came back for. But if you read these books, and they're fascinating, they actually explain why some types of coins are found more often and others aren't. If someone dropped a small brass coin of little value, they would not spend a lot of time looking for it, but if they dropped a gold coin, then they would spend a lot of time looking for it. And if you watch or read any archaeological articles or TV shows, expensive items like that, the cloak thing there, they usually suggest that they're some sort of offering, so they're thrown into a pond or a lake or something like that as an offering to whatever gods they believed in back then, rather than it being lost. So it is an interesting idea that a lot of this stuff was lost, but as I said, the archaeologists believe that as a percentage of the number of coins that were circulating, it was an insignificantly small number of coins that were actually lost. Right, that's the Derbyshire coin find. There was another coin find on the Channel Islands, and if you are familiar with the Channel Islands, they are administered by the United Kingdom. The best known ones are Jersey and Guernsey, but there's another one called Alderney, and they are just off the coast of France. And if you know your World War II history, you'd know that the Channel Islands are just next to the Calais Peninsula, and they are literally just a few miles off the coast of France, certainly a lot closer to France than the UK, but they are administered by the UK. And it's believed that the Romans were, well, it's not believed, it's known that the Romans were present on the Channel Islands, and including, many buildings and forts and things like that. And the conjecture is that they were there to keep an eye on the waterways between the islands and the French mainland, because there were important ports there that ships brought freight after travelling through the Mediterranean and passed through the Straits of Gibraltar and up the coast to France. So there were Roman forts on the islands, and there's been archaeological digs on Alderney, for example, for 80 years, and they're still excavating there. And there's been a couple of coins found there in the last few days, which I find really interesting. We think of the Romans as perhaps not being around for very long, but of course they did occupy England actively from about, and we'll get our dates wrong here, I'll get my dates wrong here, from AD 42 to past AD 400. So, over 300 years they occupied the UK for, and they certainly were in France for a lot longer. France was, of course, Gaul, that's what they called it. And you imagine that they occupied the Channel Islands for a lot longer than that. So, 300 or 400 years, that's how long the Romans were in those areas for. So that's plenty of time for plenty of buildings to be built and destroyed and rebuilt, and plenty of time for money to be dropped and things like that. So these two coins that have just shown up on Alderney, we've got an Antonianus of Valerian II, and Valerian II is the son of Valerian I, and the coin dates to 255 AD, and then a little bronze coin of Valens, which dates from AD 364 to 367. They were found in Roman ruins. And just a bit of background on those two emperors. Valerian died as a teenager. He wasn't emperor for very long, and he died in unclear circumstances, but the apocryphal legend is that he was probably poisoned and assassinated. Valens, who was the emperor of the Eastern Roman Empire, who was based in the east, over 100 years after Valerian, Valens was killed in what is now Turkey when Goths invaded, and there was a battle between the Romans and the Goths, and the Emperor Valens was killed. Who are the Goths? I think the Goths are, someone might help me here, I think they're Germany, Austria, Hungary, that sort of area, just a generic name for barbarians from that part of the world, I believe, but I'll be happy to be corrected about that. Now, the last bit of news today is, Jason, I see your question there, I'll answer that shortly. The last bit of news for today, what have I done here? Just give me 1 second. I have put the incorrect picture on something. We had a phone call from someone. No, we didn't have a phone call. The person that we bought these boxes off of came in to see us a couple of weeks ago. Her father was an accountant, and he's been gone for some time, and her mother was cleaning up the house because her mother's moving house, and she found all of these coin roll boxes. How many coin roll boxes? Probably about 30 coin roll boxes. For some time during the 1970s and the 1980s, the Royal Australian Mint distributed coin rolls in these boxes, and you can see a picture of the boxes there. Now we've seen boxes from 1 cent, 2 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, 20 cent and 50 cent. They all contained different numbers of rolls, had different face values. For example, the 1 cent boxes contain 100 rolls of 1 cent pieces, 50 cents per roll, which means there was 50 $50 in face value. The other denominations had different numbers of rolls, and I think it primarily depended on how heavy the boxes were, because it wasn't necessarily 100 rolls and it wasn't necessarily 50. For example, I believe the 50-cent boxes only had 40 rolls in them, which is still 400 rolls of 40 rolls, which is still 850-cent pieces, for example. So these boxes are quite heavy. The 1-cent rolls boxes that we bought last week weigh about 13 or 14 kilos, and there was about 20 boxes, so you can do the maths there and work out how much that weighs. There was also half a dozen sort of part boxes of other denominations. Now, about half of the 1-cent roll boxes were still sealed and the other half were open. If you know anything about rolls, and if you've bought premium or non-premium Charles III rolls, you would know that rolls can be classified by which way the heads and tails are facing on each end of the roll. So you can have what's called a head-head roll, and that means that the head side of the coin is showing on both ends of the roll. You can have a head-tail roll. That means that the head side is showing on one end of the roll and the tail is showing on the other end of the roll. And then you can have a tail roll, and that means that the tail side of the coin is showing on both ends of the roll. Now, the Royal Australian Mint believes that head-tail rolls are worth more, and they've gone ahead and called those premium. And the head and tail rolls, they've called them non-premium. In reality, the only rolls that no one really ever wants are tail, because you usually can't tell what year a roll is if it's tail. If you know a little bit of basic probability, you would know that when you roll a coin, you have a completely random chance of creating a head-head, a tail, or a head-tail roll. And what are the percentages? Well, head-tail should be 50% of the rolls, tail should be 25%, and head-tail should be wind backwards here. Head-tail should be 50-50, 50%, tail should be 25%, and head should be 25%. All of these 1-cent boxes that have been opened have only got head and head-tail rolls in them. So that means whoever was playing with these boxes of rolls back in the 1970s or early 1980s was obviously buying lots of 1-cent boxes, opening them up, and getting rid of the tail rolls, because there are none in there. Now, what were they doing with them? I have no idea, and neither does Catherine, but what we've got is a whole bunch of open boxes with head and head-tail rolls in them, so you can tell what year they are. Now, what's interesting is that they're just about all gone. Most people, we've sold a number of them through the shop almost immediately, and that's because I guess we weren't greedy about what we wanted for them, and the lady who sold them wasn't greedy either. She really wanted to get rid of them because she was petrified, well, I should say her mother was petrified that they were going to get stolen. I don't know how anyone was going to steal 300 kilos of rolls, but there you go. Now, we have handled a number of these boxes over the years, but we've certainly never seen 20 or 30 in one place. And it gives rise to a couple of interesting questions, is how much of this stuff is still around? And the other, of course, is does it make the rolls only worth face value, as one person suggested on our Facebook post about these? Of course not. They are worth considerably more than face value, regardless of the amount of supply. And if nothing else, they're worth something as scrap copper, which is considerably more than face value as well. So thank you to everyone who has come in and bought one of these boxes off of us. I believe there's a handful of open boxes left. We're not mailing them out because they're too heavy. So if you are in Adelaide and you're interested in an open box, we still have a very small number left. A very small number. Right. So being the last Monday of the month, it's a question and answer session today. There's a couple of questions in the comments which I'll address first. Thank you to those people who have asked the questions. Jason says, how did people store their money safely back in the day before banks? Well, I believe there's always been money lenders who would hold your money and pay interest on them, Jason. I believe that practice dates back thousands of years. You might remember your biblical story about Jesus chasing the money lenders out of the temple in Jerusalem. So certainly that says that there were money lenders back then. We saw in one of the books I bought in the UK, I should say, I saw a picture of what's called an arm purse, and it was a little leather pouch, and it had a strap on it, and it must have gone around someone's arm, and it was found in the excavations at Vindolanda, and Vindolanda being a Roman fort which was occupied on and off from about AD 40 right through to AD 400. And some Roman legionary has had his arm purse on his arm when he was working on the fort, building a wall or digging a trench or whatever, and he has lost that. So that particular soldier kept his money safe by keeping it on them. Many of the Roman forts that are about the place, in the central building of the fort, there's actually a vault room where the money was stored. People buried it if they believed that there was going to be some sort of chaos nearby. They actually would bury it, and that is the source of many major coin hoards. If you watched last week, there was a hoard of gold Roman coins that were found in a bronze urn, and so they were put in the bronze urn, and then the neck of the urn was sealed up with just copper coins, and then the whole lot was buried. So that was probably buried for safekeeping, and the owner never came back and got it. Now, were there banks? I don't know, but I guess to keep the money safe, you kept it safe yourself. You would perhaps have it hidden in the house or buried in the atrium or the centre part of the house that you lived in, or perhaps people just didn't have that much money to keep safe. It's hard for me to know. I'm not a historian, but that's a great question. Hello, Peter. Mark says he opened 2 non-premium 5-cent rolls of King Charles, and all but 5 had cuds on the echidna. Now that's interesting. The Charles III dollar coins that were released last year, many of those that we looked at had little die chips on them as well, just all over the coin. So the dies are still having little fractures and things like that. Hello, Alan. Thank you for watching. Antonius says, is there legislation or notification from the Australian federal government on incoming coin releases? Yeah, so Antonius, there is a parliamentary procedure that the Royal Australian Mint has to follow to issue new coins, and for every new design they have to issue what's called a currency determination, and that goes to Parliament to be approved or not approved, and usually you can use those as an indicator of what might be coming up in the future. Now, just because the currency determination has been issued, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to make the coins that the currency determination describes, but currency determinations are a way of giving you some idea of what might be being released in the future. And Antonius, if you're active on Facebook groups, then there are a bunch of people that watch those currency determinations, and as soon as one appears they publish that information. Catherine's been watching currency determinations for 15 years, pretty much for as long as I've known her. She's been watching currency determinations. They are a good indicator of what might be coming up, but they're not fail-safe. So that's a currency determination. Right. The Adelaide Coin Expo, the Royal Australian Mint's going to be there, and they're going to have a coin swap again this year. What's a coin swap? I always get asked the same question. What is a coin swap? Basically, the coin swap is the Mint has coins, perhaps they're commemorative coins in Royal Australian Mint bags, and they swap their coins for your cash. So when these things started in 2016, you could swap $10, a $10 note, for a bag of 10 2016 decimal currency $1 coins. $10 note, $10 bag. $10 note, $10 bag. Now, it used to just be $10 bags of dollar coins. They also had 50-cent bags, 20-cent bags, and it was, you know, just swapping face value for face value. Initially, back in the day, you could pay with credit card, but the Mint doesn't allow that. There was some sort of a GST problem, so now it's cash for cash. So if you are going to attend the expo and you want to take part in the coin swap, you need to bring cash. The Mint will not accept payment via FPOS or credit card, so you need to bring cash. What are they going to swap? Well, it used to be one bag at a time, but the last year or so, and I think it started last year at the expo last year. They started making groups of bags, so you could buy 3. I mean, I can't remember. I didn't attend the coin swap last year. We were busy running our table, but I think you could buy a group of 5 coin $2 bags, and it was these are ones that we got last year. One of our good customers went and lined up for us. You could buy a group of Indigenous military service bags and end of World War II bags. So there's the little 5 coin bags there. There's 5 uncirculated coins in there. $10 face value. So you got to swap one of these for a $10 note, or whatever cash you happen to have. Since the Coin Expo last year, the Mint has been making bigger and bigger swap bags. So $50 face value, $100 face value, I believe $150 face value at the last swap that happened in Canberra. And it's a mix of coins, and there's no really sort of telling what it is that they're going to make available. So interestingly, those bags that I showed you there at the expo last year, that was the first time those coin bags have been available in 5 coin bags. If you're one of these people that chases after low mintage coins, the 2021 Mob of Ruse dollar is supposedly a low mintage coin, but of course at the last few coin swaps, the Royal Australian Mint has been swapping those for face value, so you could go and get a $10 bag of 2021 Mob of Ruse coins for $10, which has made it interesting for the people that were hoarding those coins. So that's what a coin swap is. Now, the Mint only brings limited stock, so that means that at some point the grab bags do run out. They're not available the whole weekend, and you've got to be aware that people come from interstate and just line up for these swaps and go round and round the line and buy as many as they can. Generally, the Mint has a limit each time you go up the front of the line. And why do they do that? Because you're buying bags of commemorative coins at face value, and while there are no sure things in coin collecting, buying bags of coins at face value is as close to a sure thing as you can get, because of course if you can't resell them, you can always just break them open and put them in the bank. So you can't necessarily lose if you're neglecting inflation and bank interest and stuff like that. So what's the Mint going to bring to the coin swap at the expo? Don't know. When will we know? We might not know beforehand. You might only find out on the day. The Mint keeps this stuff pretty close to the chest, and but certainly as soon as they let the NSSA know what's happening, it'll be put out through the Coin Expo Facebook page, and then it will appear on here. So the keys are you need cash, so don't show up expecting to pay with card. And there will be a line. Last year the line was several hundred people long, and was taking an hour or two to get through, but the next day on Sunday there was no line. But of course some of the more desirable stuff was gone by then, but you could certainly line up on Sunday and get the $2 coins that were available last year without any wait at all. So that's what the coin swap is. If you've got any sort of specific questions about them, I'm happy to answer those via Facebook message or email and things like that. So, right, Antonia says there was a $500 bag at the last Brisbane Ander. So if you want to know what was in those bags at the last Brisbane Ander, you can jump onto the Rams Facebook page and go to their events page, and you can see all their old events, and you can find those coin swaps, and they had a list of the coins that are available to swap there. Right, are the coins from the coin swaps already in the mintage figures, or do they still need to be added once issued? You would need to ask the Mint that, Jason. I am of the opinion that they don't get added until they are issued. That's my opinion, because until then they're not officially in circulation. So I'm of the opinion that they don't get added until they've been issued, and that's because clearly with the 2021 Bob of Roos dollar coin, well, the mintage was, I don't know what it was supposed to be, 60,000 or something stupid like that. That clearly they had way more than that in the warehouse in Canberra if they're giving them out in coin swaps. So I guess coin swaps, interesting things. Now there was a question here about, do we know who's going to be on the $5 note? No, Charles III won't be on it. There's an ongoing consultation process with the Reserve Bank of Australia, Ray. So if you jump onto the Reserve Bank of Australia website and do a search, there's a consultation process going on there, and you can submit your own designs if you like, and no one will know what's happening until they make up their minds. They've already said that they're in no rush because the number of $5 notes that have printed in warehouses is more than enough to keep the economy running for the next few years. So it's not going to happen anytime soon. Now, the other question that I get asked all the time is, what is my favourite coin? So this is one of the pre-prepared questions I have. What is my favourite coin? Now, I don't really necessarily collect coins much anymore, and that's... I won't say that having the coin shop has ruined it for me, but having a coin shop has made me realise, I guess, how common some things are, and by common I mean, some of the stuff that people perceive as rare, we see them weekly or even daily, and it also, there's no putting aside running the coin shop that if you see a beautiful coin and it's worth a lot of money, you can't keep it, because you can't keep everything, otherwise this business would fail. So it means that when beautiful coins come in, we don't hang on to them. We just can't. It is a business. The business is its own thing, and this stuff that's in here isn't ours. It's the business's. But that being said, I do actually have a favourite coin, and it's my favourite coin not because of what it is, I guess. It's because of what it represents. So back in the day, and we're talking, let me think, 17 years ago, I guess, 17 years ago, my two best coin friends in the world, Peter Andrews, who is a well-known numismatist in Melbourne, and Catherine, who I ended up marrying, they met up in Melbourne for an ANDA show, I believe, and they went to a Downies viewing. Downies are a coin auction company in Melbourne, and a viewing is where you get to go and look at the lots that are appearing at the auction, and there was some things in the auction that I was interested in, but I couldn't go to Melbourne to look. So I asked Catherine to have a look for me. I didn't know Catherine at that point, but I asked her to have a look for me, and Peter to have a look at it for me. And I ended up bidding on one of the coins that they had a look at for me, and this Parliament florin here. Parliament florin, there was issued in 1927. It was to commemorate the opening of Parliament House in Canberra, what is now Old Parliament House. They minted 2 million of these, and it's Australia's first commemorative coin. And back then I was pretty green with sending stuff to PCGS, but this was amongst probably the first 10 or 15 coins that I'd sent to PCGS. I was so pleased when the coin arrived from the Downies auction. I thought Catherine and Peter did a great job of looking at it and making sure that I would be happy with it. And I was happy with it, sent it off to PCGS, and it came back in MS66, which, if you know anything about Parliament florins, is an exceedingly high grade. I believe there's only one higher, because I believe one of them is misgraded, and there's 12 or 13 graded at MS66. So what does it mean? This coin, while I don't really collect florins, and I've got no interest in collecting florins, whenever I look at this coin, it does have a special place in my collection, and I'll never let it go. It'll never be one that I'm willing to sell, whereas there's not much else in my collection that if you didn't offer me enough money I wouldn't sell it on the spot. Whereas this one, I will not sell it because it means too much to me. Did it cost me much? No, not really. I think I'll probably have $200 in this coin. So it's not a big dollar coin, but it is special to me because my two, I guess, first friends that I made from the great hobby of coin collecting did look at it for me and took the time and effort to look at it for me when I wasn't able to. And because it came back at MS66, clearly they did a great job of looking at it for me. So that's my favourite coin. It means more to me than any other coin that I own. And and as I said, I don't really collect coins anymore. So that's how much it means to me. Right, that's it for today. Next week we'll be back on Monday as usual. If you do have anything that you would like us to talk about, please send us a Facebook message or send us an email or jump onto our website and send us a contact form message. Even give me a call. Sometimes, though, we are a bit busy when we're open and I can't talk for very long, but you're quite welcome to give me a call as well and have a chat about what you'd like me to cover. Thank you everyone for joining in today. Thank you for the questions and thank you for the kind words. And again, thank you to all the people who support us here in the shop and online. And we know who you are. And Catherine and I rely on you people, and it makes coming in here worthwhile every day. So thanks everyone. Bye for now. Happy collecting and stay safe.